That should record your name, Chair.
Okay, thank you very much. Afternoon, welcome to the meeting of the local review body. I'm Councillor Annette Ireland. I'm chair to the local review body. I'd like to welcome elected members here today, Provost Fletcher, Councillor Miller and Councillor Swift. Councillor Swift is here for the first item on the agenda today, and then we'll be leaving us for the next one. Do we have any apologies for absence?
Yes, we have apologies from Councillors Cunningham, McLean and Convery, and Councillor Swift is only taking part in one of the agenda items.
Thank you. Do we have any declarations of interest on the items before us today? Okay. Thank you very much. We've been out and visited both sites today. I'll ask individually. I'm going to just move the agenda around slightly and take agenda item number 4 first, which is Priowood Road, Newton Mearns, reference 2021-12. Do we have enough information before us to make a decision on this item? As we went out on a site visit earlier today.
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. Can I pass over to yourself, Andrew, to speak to the agenda item? Thank you.
Certainly, Councillor. This review relates to the refusal of planning application reference 2021-0077TP, which relates to the erection of a 2-storey side extension at the property at 6 Priowood Road, Newton Mearns. The proposed development comprises a 2-storey side extension to the original dwelling house. The proposed extension would be set back some 2.6 metres from the front building line of the property and would sit partially over the existing driveway. The extension would measure 2.5 metres in width and approximately 7.1 metres in length. The extension would feature a dual pitched roof, the ridge of which sits below the level of the ridgeline of the existing property, with a dormer window being located in the front facing roof slope. No representations have been received in respect of the application, which forms the basis of the review. In terms of the planning officer's assessment of the application, that's set out in full within the report of handling, which forms part of the agenda papers. The report of handling indicates that the application requires to be assessed against policy D1 and D14 of the LDP and also the associated supplementary guidance. The report of handling advises that the proposed extension relates satisfactorily to the existing property, but fails to comply with the separation distance to the side boundaries set down within the supplementary guidance. The report of handling further highlights that the proposed extension would result in a reduction in the level of off-street parking associated with the property, and advises that the Council's road service has indicated that the extension would leave the property with only one usable parking space, with the second space that is proposed being neither safe nor functional. These concerns are reflected within the reason for the refusal of the application. In support of the appeal, the appellant's agent makes the following points. The extended property would feature 3 bedrooms and not 4 as stated by the Council's road service. The existing nursery is not large enough to function properly as a bedroom. As such, the off-site parking requirement for this 3-bed property would be a minimum of 2 spaces and not the 3 spaces which have been requested. The proposed development makes provision for 2 off-street parking spaces, hence complying with this requirement, with the arrangement of these 2 spaces being commonplace within the wider area within which the application site is located. Contrary to the views expressed by the road service, access to the parking space would not require the applicant to drive on the pavement, with it being noted that an application to extend the drop curb to accommodate the widened access had been made to the council, but after a period of some 7 months, the applicant was advised that he would require to make a new application, which was considered by the applicant to be wholly unacceptable. The appellant's agent further noted that there is a 4 or 5 space parking lay-by directly opposite the application site, which is rarely fully occupied, and at no times does this section of Priowood Road ever become congested or overcrowded. Members are reminded that we're required to determine this review against the relevant provisions of the adopted local development plan and any other relevant material considerations, which would include the terms of the emerging local development plan 2. In the event that this review is upheld, I would suggest the following condition be attached to any permission thus granted. One condition, the development shall not commence until samples of the external finishing materials to be used in the proposed development have been submitted to and approved in writing by the planning authority. Thereafter, the development shall be implemented in accordance with these approved details. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Andrew. Can I open it out to the local review body? Councillor Miller.
Thanks very much, Chair. I find it incredible that the whole planning application for the extension has been granted and it falls down because of a parking space. I just think it's nonsense. They say that the concern is having to cross the pavement. Well, if you've got a drop curb, you have to cross the pavement anyway. No matter what you're going to do, you have to cross the pavement. The drop curbs idea, they had a 7-month wait for planning for the drop curb, and then they say they've got to put in another application. That is absolute nonsense. And when the house is, the extension is set back 2 meters, 2.6 meters back from the front door, you're going to get a car parked in where the car was parked when we were there today. Plus, if take away the front garden, you're going to get another one in there as well. You don't need a drop curb. So I just find this refusal incredible. To me, we should be accepting this.
Thank you very much. Provost.
Thank you, Chair. I must admit, when I read all the papers earlier, my gut reaction was that the Roads Department had a very strong case, and I was quite potentially concerned about this. It shows the value maybe of actually seeing it on site. I have to say, having visited it this morning, many of the concerns I had, I didn't think were that valid. It seems to be not unreasonable. I mean, if there's no planning objections to the actual extension itself, there doesn't appear to be. It seems a wee bit odd just to lose it on the basis of a parking spot. And I think given what's proposed, we're talking about losing one parking spot at the side of the house. In other words, it's going from 2 to 1. And the applicant seems to be willing to create a parking spot in front of their window. Albeit you have to park horizontally to not be on the pavement. I don't think that, particularly if they're prepared to move the drop curb by a few metres, I don't think that should be a problem. I mean, you're really just effectively driving on and then turning right. I did wonder aesthetically whether it would, damage the area. But just a quick look round this morning, I mean, where we were standing behind us, there was a car parked. Although there was a garage, there was a car parked in essence in front of the house, and most of the other houses on the other side had 2 cars in their driveway. So the whole road is pretty much covered with people having cars in their driveway. So I don't actually think having a car, perpendicular as it were to the normal parking spot in front of their house, if they're comfortable with that, should make too much difference. And correct me if I'm wrong here, but having asked the planning officers this morning, is there any objection anywhere to a resident actually converting their front garden to, the block, the either tarmacking it or putting in these building blocks, the red building blocks? I'm told there's no real objection. I presume maybe if it was a listed area, maybe there would be for the bulk of East Renfrewshire. It doesn't seem to be an issue. So it's difficult to see what the problem would be with a car parked in front of somebody's door or window if that's what they want. So having viewed it this morning, long-winded way of saying, I think my concerns have been alleviated, and I would be minded just to let it go through. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Provost. Andrew, are you wishing to come in on the point about whether there is a general objection to cars being parked in front of gardens?
That's the word I was looking for, monoblocking. Right, so,
monoblock, yes.
Yeah.
In general terms, Councillor, the permitted development rights afforded to domestic properties would allow for the creation of an area of hard standing associated with the general use of the house. So on that basis, unless there are any specific reasons such as Article 4 directions or within a conservation area or associated with a listed building, if individuals choose to monoblock front gardens as opposed to grass, or chucky front gardens as opposed to grass, in general terms, that's part of the permitted development rights and can be carried forward without the need for any express planning permission.
Thank you for that.
Thank you. Councillor Swift?
Yeah, in a spirit of unity here, I agree with the two aforesaid councillors. I can't see any problem with this either. So I would be inclined to want to see this pass and overturn the planning decision.
Again, in that spirit of unity, Councillor Swift, I'm in agreement with three councillors here today. I would move that we overturn the appointed officer's decision, in that we do not think that it's contrary to policies D1 and D14, and that sufficient parking has been provided in the application. Can I have a seconder? Is that Councillor Miller?
Yep.
Thank you. Unless anyone's otherwise minded, and I don't think that's going to happen. So I'll pass it back to Sharon. Thank you.
Thank you. So just to confirm, the decision of the committee is to reverse officer's decision and approve planning permission subject to standard conditions and the condition outlined by the planning advisor.
Yes, we're all in agreement about the condition put on by Andrew. I'm fine with. Yes, okay. Thank you very much. Councillor Swift, you can leave the meeting now. Thank you. Okay, can I move us on to the next agenda item, back to agenda item number 3, which is Inveru. I think it was 17 Inveru that we had before us. Do we have enough information to determine this review?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. Can I pass over to yourself, Andrew, to speak to it?
Thank you, Councillor. This review relates to the refusal of planning application 2021-0174 TP, which relates to the change of use of ground to garden ground and the erection of a 2-storey side extension and boundary fence at the property at 17 Inveru Way, Newton Mearns. The application proposals relate to the erection of a 2-storey side extension to the property which forms the basis of the application. The property in question comprises a 2-storey semi-detached dwelling house located at the extreme eastern end of Inveru Way. A well-established area of landscape buffer planting is located along the whole length of the eastern boundary of the garden ground associated with this property, with this landscape strip separating the site from Barhead Road. The proposed extension measures 4.3 metres in width by 8.5 metres in length and would project beyond the rear building line of the property by approximately 1 metre. The ridge line of the extension would sit below the ridge line of the existing house, with a roof featuring a hipped end design. Due to this configuration of the curtilage associated with the property, this proposed extension cannot be accommodated within the existing garden ground, with the construction of the extension requiring the use of part of the landscape strip which runs parallel to the existing garden ground. And I would emphasise that this area of additional ground is owned by the applicant. A new wall measuring 1.8 metres in high, wall fence would be constructed along the whole length of the extended garden area. No representations have been received in respect of the application. In terms of the officer's assessment of the application, full details are provided within the report of handling, which forms part of the agenda papers. The report of handling indicates that the application requires to be assessed against the terms of policies D1 and D14 of the adopted local development plan and the associated householder design guidance. The report of handling, first of all, with regards to the change of use, the report of handling deals first of all with the proposed change of use of the garden ground, and advises that the council has previously defended urban green space in the wider West Acres area from similar changes of use, and that the change of use and change of character of this area to manage garden ground would diminish its habitat and conservation value, and that as such this aspect of the proposals would be contrary to policy D6 of the adopted LDP. With regard to the extension itself, the report of handling advises the extension would increase the width of the existing property by more than the 50% limit set down within the local development plan. The introduction of the proposed hipped roof is also considered to create an incongruous feature, which again is considered to be contrary to the relevant provisions of the local development plan. These various considerations are reflected within the 4 reasons for the refusal of the application. Moving on to the appellant's case, full details are provided within the agenda papers. In support of the appeal, the applicant's agent advises that in developing the design of the proposed extension, care has been taken to ensure that the scale and appearance of the extension would not dominate the original house, and to this end highlight the following points. The front wall of the extension has been angled to reduce its visual impact. The ridge height of the extension has been set below the level of the existing roof, and the usable garden ground is greater than that associated with the existing curtilage. And finally, the proposed change of use of open space to garden ground only relates to a small section of the landscape strip, with the majority of the mature landscape planting being unaffected by the proposed development. These factors support the applicant's position that the extension does not detract from the character of the existing streetscape and that its appearance is subservient to the original dwelling house. Finally, the applicant's agent has provided a list of properties within the immediate vicinity of the site which feature side extensions which exceed 50% of the width of the original property and in respect of which planning permission has been granted by the council. Members are reminded that they are required to determine this review against the relevant provisions of the adopted local development plan and also against any other relevant material considerations, which would include, in this case, the terms of the emerging local development plan 2. In the event of this review being upheld, I would suggest the following condition be attached to any permission thus granted. Development shall not commence until samples of the external finishing materials to be used in the proposed development have been submitted to and approved in writing by the planning authority, and that thereafter the development be implemented in accordance with these approved details. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Just before I open it out to the committee, Andrew, can I just check something in that condition? Would that apply with those finishing materials? Would that apply to the boundary wall and fence as well?
Yes, it would cover.
Okay. Okay, that's great. Thank you very much. Now open it out to the local review body for any questions or comment. Councillor Miller.
Thank you, Chair. I do have a serious concern that the applicant had pre-application advice, and the advice they sought was that, or the advice they got was that the taking on this extra land and the extra area of development would not cause a problem. Then the planning officer changed, and with the new planning officer, it does cause a problem, and it was rejected because of that. So I have serious concerns that one has got to be shown a consistent return. The second thing I picked up, I did have a wee bit concerned about the overdevelopment, but when I see, as Councillor Fletcher said about this last one, when you go out and see it, it makes a big difference. Another concern I had was the opening onto Barhead Road, and I thought this changes, if it's going right on towards the pavement, it's going to change the dynamic of it. But then, Andrew, you told us that a lot of the foliage that's there, a lot of trees and bushes that will still be there. It's only going to be going across 2 meters, there'll be 5 meters left. I would like to see the applicant plant some trees or bushes to try and mitigate that, whether it's inside his own property that will grow up to can mitigate that. Other than that, I don't have a problem with this. I'd like to see it granted.
Thank you very much. Provost?
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I think I'm probably of a similar mind when I look at this. I had concerns about an extension that was going into, you know, the kind of rough areas that were beyond the houses, because it's clearly meant to buffer the estate from the road. I think, as you say, having viewed it on site, there isn't that much of an incursion into it. The owners of that land appear quite willing to sell it to the applicant. And the fact that there are a number of houses with similar extensions in the close proximity to this address, it's very difficult to say no to the applicant, I think. But I'm minded to say yes, I think we should give this planning permission, and happy with the condition that Mr. Benny has suggested. But I would actually agree with Councillor Miller about the size of the kind of foliage, as it were, and the 5 metres that's left. I mean, most of the high stuff seems to be in the initial 2 or 3 metres. So it would be quite nice just to ensure that the house wasn't, you know, too protruding too visually onto the pavement, to maybe try and plant something that would provide a bit more screening in the 5 metres. Doesn't need to be the full 5 metres, but maybe just another few, you know, high bushes or plants that would obscure the house from the pavement. And I think if they were prepared to do that, you know, certainly I don't really see any reason not to grant planning permission for this. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Andrew, that's a couple of comments that have been made from the councillors about whether we could have put on a condition. Is there any way that could be done? I mean, I would like to see that as well.
Yes, Councillor, an extra condition requiring the applicant to provide details of the proposed landscaping to run parallel with the new wall. And once again, to have those details submitted to and approved in writing before the development takes place.
Councillor Miller, Provost, are you happy with
I think that would
that
be
condition? Okay. Unless anyone's wanting to, any other comments or questions?
No, I think
I'll just move that we overturn the decision taken by the planning officer, and that we do approve planning for this. I think I'm going through the conditions. The proposal they're saying is contrary to policy D6. I don't agree, and I think the local review body are saying don't think that that applies here. So it's overturning these ones that are listed: policy D6 and policy D14 and policy D1. If I could pass back to yourself, Sharon.
Thank you, Chair. So can I just confirm that you had a seconder there? Was that from Councillor Miller?
Sorry, I do apologise, Councillor Miller.
I saw you raising your hand, that's fine. So just to confirm that decision there, so it's to reverse officer's decision and approve planning permission subject to standard conditions and the 2 conditions outlined by the planning advisor.
Yes, thank you very much. And thank you very much, everyone, for your time today. I think that's all the business we have in front of us. I'll see you at the next one.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much.